There used to be a time when we believed that all leaders had to look something like this. We expected they would, of course, be male, about 6'2", blonde hair, blue eyes, and hopefully above average intelligence. But sadly, this case is no longer true. Leaders need to come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, all kinds of different genders, I hope, in order to meet the challenges of UK manufacturing. So what I'd like to do this morning is just take about 10 minutes to talk a little bit about the challenging manufacturing context that we find ourselves in. I'd like to tell you about some of the things that I see in leaders inside manufacturing organisations. And I'd like to propose that there are 3 things that these leaders need to be really good at, which will hopefully give you a little food for thought. So first of all, let's examine the context. Let's talk about some of the challenges that present themselves in the external world to manufacturing industry. One of the key things that's at play is the whole sustainability agenda. I see lots of organisations wrestling with a raft of legislation that they have to meet up to. They're thinking about what's their impact on the environment, how do they manage their energy consumption, how do they handle waste. So the sustainability agenda is large. Secondly, it's about technological developments. Organisations are seeking to embrace change by using technology in the most appropriate way, thinking about how they can use those technological advances to beat their rivals and get the edge with their customers. And the final 2 challenges are really closely aligned. All of us face a context where customer behaviour is changing. I'm sure you'll have all experienced that customers are less loyal than perhaps they used to be. They're less tolerant of mistakes, and they're definitely more informed than they ever were. And what they expect from manufacturers is that they will be truly customer-centric and have a real high focus on customer service. So all of that stuff is sitting out there in the context. Aligned to that, of course, is the supply chain, which needs to be responsive to those customer needs and set up in such a way it can be agile to meet changing circumstances. So, I've been working with manufacturing organisations as a management consultant for about the last 20 years. And I'd like to tell you about what I observe in terms of leaders and leadership. Oops. And hopefully these pictures will give you a clue to some of the things I'd like to speak about. What I see as I look around leadership teams inside organisations is leaders who are wrestling with a potential lack of diversity in their leadership teams. I'm not just talking about gender or race diversity, but I'm talking about a potential lack of diversity in terms of background and experience. Because a lot of organisations have had people grow up within them, which is great, preserves lots of traditions and keeps a lots of experience. But it can mean that some organisations are suffering from perhaps looking at a smaller frame of reference, or indeed might be suffering from groupthink, where actually it's difficult to challenge decisions because we've all been around and got comfortable with each other for a long time. So leaders wrestle with that lack of diversity. I see a real desire to change and to innovate. And I see those leaders recognising that they need to do things differently in order to beat the competition. But for many leadership teams, they're not sure how or who should lead those innovation initiatives or where indeed those new ideas should come from. And aligned to that is this whole area of continuous improvement. Many leaders recognise the need to continually make some of those incremental changes in order to grow and develop and beat the competition. But how do you get a raft of employees who are used to doing things in particular ways to start to make some of those small changes that can help us stay ahead of the competition? So I see a desire to change, leaders who want to change, but perhaps don't have much experience of bringing about transformational change. They may lack experience in that area, especially if it's about bringing about wholesale cultural change. Perhaps an organisation wants to move from being production-focused into being truly customer-centric. And then we have to engage everybody to bring about that change. So it's a tough one. And the final one is about the people. I see leaders increasingly wrestling with employees who have different expectations. So there's been lots of stuff written about how you manage Generation Y, Generation Z, increasingly employees who have very different expectations. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to be involved and consulted. And they're looking for growth and progression inside the organisation. So employee expectations are very different. So what do great manufacturing leaders need to do in order to enable their organisations to survive and indeed thrive and grow? Well, I think there are 3 key areas on which they need to focus. They are change, strategy, and people. So let's talk about change, first of all. My proposition is that in order for leaders to really grow these organisations, they need to be good at anticipating change. So as a leader, you need to be thinking about, who am I talking to? On what topics? What am I reading? Where am I travelling in order to get a whole host of new information to help me anticipate change? Great leaders develop relationships with people who encourage them to think differently. Secondly, in terms of strategy, I would argue, of course, as a management consultant who makes a living that way, that every organisation needs a great strategy. But I think it's about more than that. Leaders need to be developing strategies which are truly agile and can change as the context develops. So it's great to get everyone in the organisation to take some time out of being in the weeds, of all the operational stuff, the firefighting that they do day to day, and to get them to think about what's on the horizon, what's coming for us. And in fact, some of my clients, they actually make sure that they have people out there searching the external environment all of the time to bring that information back into the leadership team and into their discussions about strategy. So the strategy needs to be agile so that they can innovate to beat the global competition. And the final area, as with everything, it's all about the people. Leaders who are going to be successful in the future need to really engage with every single one of their employees. They need to motivate people to give them that discretionary effort. That's that piece that comes somewhere between the minimum requirements of a job role and the individual's personal capability. And great leaders need to be able to really engage with people in order to capitalise on that discretionary effort. So for many traditional manufacturing leaders, it means a change of style. It means that the leader needs to stop seeing themselves as the all-seeing, all-knowing great leader who tells and directs, but to start to use a style which is much more empowering and participative, to really engage with people to get their ideas and to bring new things forward. Great leaders need to banish those words, but we've always done it like this, and look for new ways of doing things. So, in conclusion, I think the challenge in manufacturing is enormous, but it's time to change. Don't be comfortable with what you did yesterday. Embrace some of the things that you do well, but also look around some corners for what you need to be doing tomorrow. And my final proposition is, what got you here won't necessarily get you there. Thank you very much.